Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I am Anil Thomas. Coming up in the next hour. Fierce fighting in northern Gaza continues. More foreign nationals and injured. Gaza people leave through the Rafah crossing. India, 27 other nations and European Union signed first international declaration to address artificial intelligence risk. Rishi Sunak terms declaration as a landmark achievement. Mass exodus of Afghans continue from Pakistan's northwestern border, crossing a day after Pakistan's government's deadline expired to leave. Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman addresses the bicentennial celebrations of arrival of Indian origin Tamils in Sri Lanka. Japan announces $113 billion economic stimulus to combat inflation, subsidies to support businesses to raise wages and strengthen supply chains. Well, our top story there, the conflict, the armed conflict between Israel and Gaza continues. We are into week 4, and we're joined by Tal Henrik, the spokesperson in the Israeli Prime Minister's office from Tel Aviv for this special broadcast. Good evening, welcome.
Thank you, Anil.
Day 27 or week 4 of this conflict. As things stand today, what's the biggest challenge that the Israeli government is facing?
A few challenges here, and I will start with something that is a bit overlooked, I think, because, as you said, we are 27 days after Hamas death squads massacred through our communities here in Israel and threatened Israel's sovereign territory as they did, mutilated, raped their way through our communities, and still so many people, we're talking about dozens of Israelis, are unaccounted for. That means that their families, they don't know if they're being held hostage in Gaza with 240 other Israelis, or that they died, they were killed, and their bodies are in Gaza, but we have no access to them, or that their bodies are in fact here, but they are beyond recognition. So can you imagine, Anil, the torture of mind and soul to these families who have no idea what happened to their loved ones? So that is one challenge. Of course, the second challenge is to accomplish our goal. We're doing it, and it will take time. We're operating in Gaza. We expanded the ground operation, as we said we would, with the aim of dismantling the Hamas terrorist regime. And it is a very difficult mission because, as you know, Hamas has embedded itself inside the civilian population, underneath hospitals. They put command centers under hospitals and schools and youth centers and clinics and mosques and whatnot. So we are acting in a very surgical way in Gaza right now to achieve this mission and also to bring our sons and daughters back home.
Okay, the US President, Joe Biden has called for a humanitarian pause. Will Israel in the first place agree to this appeal?
You see, we have agreed. We said we will not prevent the transfer of humanitarian aid from the Rafah border crossing, which connects Egypt and the Gaza Strip, inside Gaza. And we're talking about medical supplies, food, and water. We want this humanitarian aid to reach the civilian population in Gaza. And in fact, dozens of trucks have entered so far, and many more will enter because we want the population in Gaza. We don't want them to suffer. We wanted them. We called on them to evacuate from the north, where the heavy fighting is taking place, where Hamas is deep grounded and under the ground over there. And we called on them to evacuate to the southwest, to these safer havens where humanitarian aid is awaiting. But if you're talking in terms of a ceasefire, then no, a ceasefire is not negotiable, because we had a ceasefire on October 6th. And then the day after, Hamas broke it and massacred us. So we will have a ceasefire again only after we achieve these goals of bringing back our sons and daughters and, of course, dismantling the Hamas terrorist regime.
Tal, do you see any circumstances, arising short of wiping out Hamas, that could lead to, an early end to this armed fight that is on?
An early end, a surrender of Hamas? Well, I think it's very premature to tell. We hope that international pressure combined with military pressure will help us achieve our goal, because we have decided as a nation that we can no longer live next to this existential threat, this terror base called Gaza, under the Hamas rule. It's simply impossible, because I don't know if you've seen that, but a top Hamas leader, one of their political leaders, just gave an interview a few days ago to a Lebanese channel, and he said that they will commit the October 7th massacre again and again, for a second time and a third time and a fourth time if they could. And we take his words at face value. That's exactly what they would do. That's why we're not taking any chances here.
Okay, Tal, do you think that Hamas would be in a position, especially to have a pitch battle, especially with the IDF?
To have again? Say, please.
I said, will Hamas be in a position, especially to get into a pitch battle with the IDF? Or, is it something that they are
battle,
not...
You see, these are questions that our military leadership is dealing with. I cannot really expand on anything operational happening on the ground. Number of forces, number of terrorists that we have to take down, and so on. But and I cannot even expand about military strategy moving ahead from
perfectly understood, Tal. But what is Israel's plan, especially when it comes to rescuing the Israeli as well as the foreign hostages?
So obviously, the fact that there are 240 at least hostages being held there is making the operation a very, very complex mission. And these are things that are being discussed in the highest levels in the Israeli military and the government. We believe that the ground operation is helping us to achieve both of our goals of dismantling Hamas and bringing back our hostages home. So we know that it will take time. We said it will take time. This is just the beginning. We have patience, we have the resilience, and we're acting as a united nation right now. You should see what's happening on the home front, and not only on the front lines. It's a national effort, because you see, Anel, everyone in this country, everyone in Israel has been affected by that. Everyone knows someone who's fighting. Everyone knows someone who was killed or was abducted or was injured. We have 5,400 injuries. And keep in mind that it's not that just the October 7th massacre happened and then Israel launched a counteroffensive. We have 8,500 rockets that have been fired at Israeli territory over this period. That is a reality that we will no longer tolerate.
Okay. Tal, looking at this particular conflict that's taking place, are you apprehensive in the first place of, this particular conflict, growing wider, especially in the region?
Sure, we don't want to see this conflict expanding into a full-fledged war on combined fronts. Our adversaries in the region, if it's Hezbollah, as you know, or the Houthis in Yemen, all of them are supported by Hamas. All of them, in fact, are Iranian proxies, just like Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And they try to challenge us time and again. We've had back and forth in the north with Hezbollah, and we're acting to deter in the north and to dismantle in the south these Iranian proxies. But we hope that these Iranian proxies do not provide us an attack on a casus belli scale that we will have to retaliate. But if they would, we will act very, very decisively. We will act very decisively, and it will be disastrous for the people of Lebanon. And we know that Hezbollah doesn't care much about them, just like Hamas doesn't care about the Palestinian civilians. Israel does not want to hurt any civilians. We don't want any civilian population to suffer. But you see, we will have to defend ourselves, and we will do whatever it takes.
Also with regards to the way, this particular fight is going on, do you somewhere feel, as I asked you before, I'm just turning the question upside down, how long do you think, we are into week 4, how long do you think can the Hamas hold up, or do they have the firepower to hold, to hold themselves together for much longer?
We are a strong and resilient nation. Anera, you are familiar with the history of Israel, and you're familiar with the history of the Jewish people. You know how resilient we are. And we will do whatever it takes for as long as it takes. That is what the Prime Minister says. And I think the world understands it. That just like was the case with the ISIS Caliphate, for example, in Syria and Iraq, it took the international coalition to defeat ISIS in fact, many months. I cannot speculate here how long it will take us to achieve our goal of eliminating the Hamas regime in Gaza, but I can tell you that we are looking at the model of the international coalition to defeat ISIS that worked very well. This is what we're following, and we're also consulting with international partners in that respect.
Okay,
Tal, all the patience in the world.
Okay, is Israel, not worried, especially with regards to the action that it takes, in the Gaza Strip? It could possibly also, wrap up or possibly strengthen the anti-Israel sentiment, especially in West Asia and elsewhere in the world. Do you worry that? And how do you plan to tackle that issue?
You see, we believe that everyone in the civilized world that is not ignorant and knows history and knows a thing or two about the region and knows how to tell right from wrong, good from evil, will stand by Israel. And we know that people in Asia, the people in India are standing by our side, because you see, it's not coincidental that this attack has taken place right when Israel was on the brink of achieving a diplomatic breakthrough with Saudi Arabia, an historic peace deal that would have changed the region and would have benefited India as well.
Okay.
You remember just a few weeks ago, months ago, we were talking about this rails and ports corridor that will connect India with the Middle East and Europe through Saudi Arabia and Israel. We want peace. We want a prosperous region. But these terrorists, that is their greatest enemy. Peace is their worst nightmare. But we will have it. We will have it. So we know that the civilized world will stand by us.
Tal, when one takes a look at India, how do you see the role of India, especially the potential that it holds or a pivotal role that it would play, in helping ending this particular war?
So we hope, first, on a personal level, I would like to express gratitude here on behalf of the Israeli people to the support that we have, moral support that we have been receiving from Indian individuals all around the world. It's been very heartwarming, and we know that to tell good from evil, right from wrong, and we really appreciate your standing by Israel. And on the diplomatic level, what we want to see is support to Israel in the United Nations. So far, we're 27 days after Hamas waged war on us, and the UN Security Council hasn't issued even a condemnation of Hamas. So I think moral global leadership is very, very important here, and India sure has that.
Okay, one final word. How do you see this, this Hamas military group that exists? Do you somewhere feel that it's become a state within a state, the way they have gone about, post the October 7th events that have unfolded?
You mean that Hamas is a state inside a state?
True.
Hamas is a terrorist regime. They have their governance bodies and they have a military wing. And we have decided that it can simply be no longer. Not only that they are targeting us, they're also committing a double war crime here, because they're hurting us and they're hurting the civilian population in Gaza. They are, our armies will protect us, the civilian population, the Indian army, the Israeli army. This is what normal armies do. But when you're talking about terrorists, they're doing exactly the opposite. They're putting the population in front of them to act as human shields. That is a war crime, and they're committing a double war crime here, so they can be no longer.
Okay, we'll leave it there. We appreciate you joining us this evening on this special broadcast. Week 4, let's hope that we see light at the end of the tunnel, and we hope that things get better. Thank you and appreciate you joining us this evening on this broadcast.
Sure, now.
Well, we've got DD India Sarah Coates now joining us from Tel Aviv with the latest. Sarah, good evening. Welcome to NewsHour. Sarah, put the latest into perspective. Week 4, what's happening on the ground, especially when it comes to the Rafah crossing? We do believe that started, and how are things proceeding there? Okay, we'll have to wait for that. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman addresses bicentennial celebrations of arrivals of Indian origin Tamils in Sri Lanka. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurates 3-day India manufacturing show in the southern city of Bengaluru.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Anil Thomas. Now staying with the top story that we are following, the Israel-Gaza armed conflict. Week 4, day 29. We've got our correspondent there on ground zero, Sarah Coates, joining us from Tel Aviv to get us the latest on that story that's developing. Sarah, good evening. Looking at how things are at this point of time, there is a window, the Rafah crossing, that was expected to open. Give us the latest from there.
Look, I'm not really hearing you so well. I'm just going to go ahead and let you know the latest on the ground. We are hearing that heavy battles are continuing in the north of the Gaza Strip. According to the Israel Defense Forces, it came out a little while ago to say that its death toll there within the IDF has gone up now to 18 soldiers, a number of other soldiers killed today, raising that total now to 18. The military says that Hamas fighters have been using hand grenades, been using anti-tank missiles, while Hamas says a number of its soldiers, its fighters, have also been killed. Now, with the latest on the diplomatic front, Bahrain has just come out to say that its ambassador is being recalled from here in Israel, while it's also kicking out the Israeli ambassador in Bahrain over the latest incidents. We're talking here about the bombing of that refugee camp for a second consecutive day. Now, this comes as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to arrive here in Israel. He's set for a number of talks right around the region to try and really ease the pressure. He's also expected to reaffirm the U.S.'s support for Israel, but also pressure Israel in a way to make sure that it secures as many Palestinian lives, civilian lives as possible. So look, a lot happening here in the region, as I mentioned.
Okay. Sarah, one takes a look at the end game, especially for the Israeli military. What's the end game that we are looking at? Sarah, if you could hear me, what is the end game, especially for the Israeli military in this all-out attack that's currently taking place?
I'm sorry, I'm really not hearing what you're saying, but I will give you one other update. The IDF has just come out also to say that the number of hostages being held in the Gaza Strip has now gone up to 242. That's 2 more people than what they thought were being held in the Gaza Strip yesterday. And amid this, there are many protests happening right around Israel and also abroad, given that these hostages are known to be from around 30 different countries. There's so much pressure on Israel's Netanyahu government to do more to release these people. An overwhelming amount of people really here in Israel that I've spoken to believe that that should be Israel's #1 priority rather than a ground incursion and fighting in Gaza. They say the troops should be going in there trying to return these people that were taken captive on October the 7th, rather, down in southern Israel.
Okay. Sarah, what's the, massive challenge that the Israeli military face now on the ground? What is the biggest challenge that the Israeli military faces on the ground? Well, I believe we've lost our line of communication there with our correspondent on the ground there in Tel Aviv. That is Sarah Coates reporting for DD India. Moving forward, shifting focus, India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that India will continue to stand with the Indian origin Tamil community in their efforts to uplift the community. In addition, foundation stone laying ceremony for the 10,000 houses under the Phase 4 of the Indian Housing Project was virtually held jointly by Nirmala Sitharaman and the Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The Indian Finance Minister shared a heartfelt admiration for the indomitable spirit of that's exhibited by the Indian origin Tamil community in the face of adversity over the last 200 years. She was speaking at the NAM 200 commemoration of 200 years of the arrival of Indian origin Tamil community to Sri Lanka at the Sugata Dasa Indoor Stadium in Colombo. On the occasion, Thodaman Vocational Training Center, upgraded under India's assistance, was dedicated to the people. Apart from this, school supplies for 10,000 school children in the plantation areas were also handed over. Earlier, the Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman inaugurated the State Bank of India branch in Trincomalee. Finance Minister appreciated that SBI, with its 159 years of significant presence, is the oldest bank in Sri Lanka and continues to grow its business at home and abroad. After the inauguration, Finance Minister also interacted with the new branch officials and distributed passbooks to new customers, besides filling the visitors' book in Trincomalee, Sri Lanka. Moving from Sri Lanka to another neighboring country, Bangladesh, the second day of the countrywide 3-day blockade was marked by vandalism and vehicle torching in several parts of Dhaka. Law enforcers detained more than 100 leaders and activists of the Bangladeshi Nationalist Party, or BNP, and other opposition parties across the country. At least 21 incidents of arson were reported across Bangladesh in 24 hours till Wednesday. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated the three-day India Manufacturing Show in the southern city of Bengaluru. Addressing young entrepreneurs present at the event, the minister described small-scale industries as the backbone of India's economy that contribute immensely to the development of the nation.
भारत में यदि दिन का सूर्य या कहें प्रकाश का सूर्य भारत के ईस्ट में उगता है, तो डेवलपमेंट और साइंस का सूर्य भारत के साउथ में उगता है। प्राइवेट इंडस्ट्री का प्रॉफिट भारत के करोड़ों परिवारों तक जाता है, जिससे इस देश की इकोनॉमी संचालित होती है। यदि यह सेल्फिश मोटिव होता तो यह दूसरों के लॉस की कीमत पर, लेकिन यह तो प्रॉफिट मोटिव है जो दूसरों के वेलफेयर के साथ आ रहा है। प्राइवेट इंडस्ट्री जो प्रॉफिट अर्न करते हैं वह सोसाइटी में लौट कर जाता है।
India's Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan visited the under-construction Babs Hindu Temple in Abu Dhabi in UAE. The temple is expected to be one of the largest and most beautiful Hindu temples outside of India and is scheduled to be completed in 2024. During the visit, India's Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan expressed his gratitude to the leadership of the United Arab Emirates for their continuous support in making the Hindu temple a reality. He also emphasized the temple's significance in promoting the rich Indian culture and heritage within the UAE and strengthening the enduring bond between the two nations.
This temple represents the modernity. This temple represents the eternity of Indian civilization. This will create global harmony, global peace and global well-being. I am confident the Indian civilization will be responsible for global harmony in future. This temple, this Swaminarayan temple, will rightly inculcate the spirit of Indian civilization in the present day world's order.
Well, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has begun his Italy visit with a Senate interaction on India's deepening partnership. The minister thanked Senator Giulio Terzi and Senator Roberto Menia for co-chairing. Dr. S. Jaishankar appreciated the warm sentiments for India across party lines. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met Italian Defence Minister Guido Crosetto today. The agenda focused on taking forward India's renewed defence and security partnership. Dr. Jaishankar appreciated his assessment and valued his suggestions for defence industry cooperation. Energy Efficiency Services Limited under the Ministry of Power launched the National Efficient Cooking and Energy Efficient Fans program in New Delhi. The event highlights significance of efficient cooking transition and facilitates India's energy transition. It also marks a concrete step towards India's net zero goals and paves the way for other stakeholders to follow suit in their sustainable endeavors.
That's the strategy we have been following in our country. Electrification of the economy and greening of electricity. We've had success. Right now, about 44% of our capacity is already non-fossil. In energy terms, that will be in about 24-25%. But this has to go up. This has to go up. By 2030, we'll have about 65% of our capacity coming from non-fossil fuel sources. We believe that we need to shift from imported forms of energy to indigenous forms of energy. And the way to do that, and one major way of doing that, is to shift our cooking to electricity. And that's what we are endeavoring to do.
Well, let's take a look at some other stories making news. The King of Bhutan is set to visit India from the 3rd to the 10th of this month. His visit includes meetings with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, and visits to the states of Assam and Maharashtra. On Thursday, Indian Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar delivered the Platinum Jubilee Address titled Role of Women in Indian Parliament at Miranda House College in Delhi. During the event, he also highlighted the significant impact India's G20 presidency has had globally. Still to come on DD India News Hour. US, UK, EU and China signed declaration of artificial intelligence's catastrophic danger. Trains and ferries cancelled as France on weather alert over exceptional storm. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Anil Thomas. A quick recap of the headlines. Fierce fighting in northern Gaza continues. More foreign nationals and injured people of Gaza leave through the Rafah crossing. Mass exodus of Afghans continue from Pakistan's northwestern border crossing a day after Pakistan's government's deadline expired to leave. India, 27 other nations and European Union signed first international declaration to address artificial intelligence risk. Rishi Sunak terms the declaration as a landmark achievement. India, along with 27 other countries and the European Union, signed a declaration at the meeting in United Kingdom, pledging to work together to assess the risks associated with artificial intelligence. The UK government on Wednesday issued the Bletchley Declaration and issued warning about the threats presented by artificial intelligence systems. Britain said at the summit it would triple to £300 million or $364 million its funding for the artificial research resource. It comprises of 2 supercomputers which will support research into making advanced AI models safe. Well, Julia Chapman joining us from the United Kingdom on the latest. Julia, what's the significance of this particular first artificial intelligence summit, and why should the world take such a lot of interest in artificial intelligence?
Well, as we've been hearing over the past couple of days, artificial intelligence is a technology that is full of potential. There are many ways that it will make our lives much easier and is already making our lives easier, being able to process data at incredibly rapid speeds, for example. But in the longer term, there are big concerns about whether it could pose a threat to humanity, and that is what has been examined by the participants at this summit. So-called frontier AI, the most sophisticated models, and the suggestion that they could overtake human intelligence and go beyond human control. Also fears about hackers and terrorists using the technology for malevolent reasons. So lots of big concerns being discussed over the last couple of days. The declaration really underscoring this intention by all these countries to continue working together when it comes to better understanding the impacts of artificial intelligence, the trajectory trajectory that it will be developing along over the next few years, and what governments need to do in order to make sure that that development happens safely?
You know, Britain has spoken about £300 million that it is going to invest, especially in AI supercomputing. Do you see similar steps that other countries would soon follow, considering the threat that they face from AI or the pros that they face from AI?
We are certainly seeing many more millions of dollars being invested in this technology, certainly something that private companies are looking at. They are already developing it at quite rapid speeds, but also governments trying to plunge money into better understanding it and making sure that those investments go towards developing the technology for good and for public benefit. But we're certainly seeing a lot of talk as well about regulation and what needs to be done by governments in order to ensure that this happens safely, whether this needs to be a domestic national effort or a global international effort with some sort of regulatory body like that which regulates nuclear energy. So certainly we are seeing lots of discussions about the way that this is going to go in the future. The UK, for what it's worth, has shied away from any kind of immediate legislation or regulation about AI, but we're seeing the United States moving in that direction, Canada and the European Union, all making sure that they have powers to crack down on technology companies that are developing this technology unsafely.
Okay, also a quick word with regards to the presence of Elon Musk there. Is there a likelihood that India's ministers or Elon Musk, the people that he met there, especially considering the interest that he has in India, when Prime Minister had visited the US, he did speak about, you know, deep interest that he has when it comes to expanding business in this country?
Yes, it's certainly possible that there have been discussions on the sidelines. Elon Musk has been one of the star guests of the last couple of days. He's going to be holding a live Q&A with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak later today to discuss the ins and outs of the possibility brought by artificial intelligence and the risks associated with it. He was calling yesterday for a third-party referee, as he put it, to ensure that this technology is developed safely. But certainly he will be the attention of many people in the room who are wanting to speak to him, discuss with him possibilities for investment. And undoubtedly, he has been showing quite a lot of attention in a number of nations who are here over the last couple of days, and really turning his attention to artificial intelligence and what needs to be done to regulate it.
We'll leave it there. A world's first AI agreement is how I would sum it up. US, China and EU agreeing to work together is surely good days ahead when it comes to artificial intelligence. Thank you. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Hollywood actors and union are still far, far away from any concrete deal. New challenges that they face include issues related to artificial intelligence.
Fear of artificial intelligence replacing jobs has now taken over the film and TV industry. The threat became a hot button for the negotiators in Hollywood amid the 100-long-day strike, as it failed once again with concerns over the use of artificial intelligence.
I've been doing negotiations for SAG-AFTRA for over 2 decades at this point. I've never had a situation like this. I've never had a situation where the CEOs are down in the room. And so this is unprecedented on so many different levels, and we're trying to make sure we get a deal that matches that.
Along with the demands for higher compensation, the union also pressed for new terms on limiting the use of AI to write scripts. The contract also prevents studios from treating AI-generated content as source material.
We will not give up. We will not surrender. We will not be deterred from fighting for what actors, SAG-AFTRA members deserve, and we will be out here delivering that message, not just to this streamer, but at all of the studios here, New York, around the country, and our negotiating committee and the staff who stand by them. We will stand strong with our members in solidarity, and we will do it because one day longer, one day strong.
Actors fear that they may have been replaced by digital performers and that their likeness may be used without their permission. The dual strike shut down most scripted production in the US, keeping the thousands of crew members out of work and cost the California economy at least $6 billion. Jyoti Tripathi for DD India.
Well, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said a leading official from its Department of Arms Control Affairs will lead a delegation in the China-US nuclear talks. Chinese spokesperson said China and the US will conduct dialogue and exchanges on a wide range of issues, such as implementation of international arms control treaties. The talks come days after Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with senior US officials with both sides. The two sides have agreed to hold a series of consultations in the near future. Pakistan's northwestern border crossing on Thursday was flooded with thousands of people looking to cross into Afghanistan. A day after police started dismantling mud houses in an Afghan colony on the outskirts of Islamabad late on Wednesday, ahead of a midnight deadline for undocumented refugees, Afghan people are forced to leave or face expulsion. Last month, Pakistan had set the November 1st as the start date for the expulsion of all undocumented immigrants, including hundreds of thousands of Afghans, citing security reasons. Reacting to the exodus, UNHCR has warned that Pakistan's planned expulsion of more than 1 million undocumented foreign nationals risks triggering a human rights catastrophe. Well, general elections in Pakistan will be held on Feb 11th next year. The country's poll body has informed the Supreme Court on Thursday, putting an end to months-long uncertainty. The Election Commission of Pakistan's council said that the process of drawing constituencies would be completed by Jan 29th, paving the way for the polls. He said this as the Apex Court resumed hearing on a set of petitions challenging for holding elections within 90 days after the dissolution of the National Assembly and the provincial legislatures. A three-judge bench comprising Chief Justice of Pakistan took up the pleas moved by the Supreme Court Bar Association, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, along with others. Storm Kiran smashed into northwestern Europe on Thursday with strong winds and driving rain, killing one person in France and forcing the closure of schools, airports, along with rail and ferry services. A truck driver was killed by a falling tree in the northeast of Paris, and 1.2 million French households were left without electricity. Authorities in Finistère, Brittany, urged people to stay at home and avoid winds which were hitting 207 kilometers per hour. This is leading to reports of a 20-meter wave off the coast. Storm Kiran, which follows on the heels of Storm Babette 2 weeks ago, was driven by a powerful jet stream that swept in from the Atlantic, unleashing heavy rain and furious winds that have already caused heavy flooding in Northern Ireland and parts of Britain. Well, Donald Trump's son testified at a New York civil fraud trial, accusing the former U.S. president and his family businesses of inflating asset values. Trump Jr. had told the court in New York that he was not directly involved in preparing the so-called statements which state prosecutors say were fraudulently inflated. DD India's Jody Jacobs has more from New York.
In a brief appearance on Wednesday, the first of the adult Trump children to testify in the matter, Donald Trump Jr. said he had little to do with the financial practices of the organization. He said he and his brother Eric took over the management of the company when their father assumed the presidency back in 2017, and maintains he had little involvement in financial matters. This particular lawsuit by New York Attorney General Letitia James accuses the former president and his two sons of inflating their assets by billions of dollars to secure better loan terms. It's just one of the many trials the former president faces as he campaigns to retake the White House. There's a lot at stake in this trial: $250 million in damages and a possible ban on the iconic Trump organization from operating in New York. Donald Trump has denied any wrongdoing and has repeatedly accused both the Attorney General and the judge of political bias. The former president was not in court on Wednesday, but he is set to testify on Monday. His other son, Eric Trump, is also expected to testify this week, as well as Ivanka Trump. Jody Jacobs in New York, reporting for DD India.
Well, Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte and Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh attended the Green Economy Forum in Hanoi on Thursday. They discussed the importance of sustainable economic growth and eco-friendly practices. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Japan compiles a $113 billion package to cushion inflation. Analysts expect package to give little boost to consumption. India's GST revenue for October 2023 hits the second highest record amidst global recession fears.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Anil Thomas. The GST, or the Goods and Service Tax revenue collected in the month of October crossed $20.4 billion. GST revenue collections for October is the second highest ever after April. Revenue from domestic transactions include import of services, which is also 13% higher with year-on-year basis. In September, GST collections was also record high as compared to earlier months. In a strategic move to foster and nurture innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem throughout India, Atal Innovation Mission is set to organize a peer-to-peer workshop focusing on the development of state-level innovation ecosystem. The core idea is to improve India's ranking in the Global Innovation Index. DD India correspondent Ajay Mishra spoke to the mission director, Atal Innovation Mission in Niti Aayog, Dr. Chintan Vaishnav.
The Indian startup ecosystem is third largest in the world, and we have still a long way to go. We have with us a very special guest today, Mr. Chintan Vaishnav, who is the mission director for Atal Innovation Mission under Niti Aayog. Sir, thank you very much. You are going to, bring all the states for the very first time to speak and, speak their minds about innovations. What are we going to achieve via this exercise? Can you tell us the core mission that you are going to, follow?
The primary goal of this exercise that is going to take place next week from November 6th through November 8th in Bangalore, where decision makers, government officials from every state and union territory of India will come together under one roof for the first time to discuss how they are building their state or UT's innovation ecosystem and what is the roadmap for it for the next 5 years. The core purpose of this exercise is to really unleash peer learning across states and union territories and regions, because there is enormous amount of experimentation going on across states and UTs, and if we can just learn from each other, that will really accelerate the pace at which we can move forward. This workshop is happening under the aegis of the Niti Aayog, especially the state support mission or the state-facing work of the Niti Aayog, which is one of its two core mandates under the competitive and cooperative federalism. Once the workshop takes place, then we're hoping that this regional and national peer learning continues and can be can be helped by the Niti Aayog.
Well, Japanese government on Thursday compiled a $113 billion US package to cushion the economic blow from inflation. The package includes temporary cuts to income and residential taxes, payouts to low-income households, and subsidies to curb gasoline and utility bills. Inflation fueled by rising cost of raw materials has kept about the central bank's target of 2% for more than a year, weighing in consumption and clouding the outlook for an economy already dealing with tattered finances. Japan will compile a supplementary budget for the current fiscal year of 13.1 trillion yen. Japan's stimulus package aims to provide temporary tax relief to consumers and subsidize energy and gas prices. Chris Gilbert has more from Tokyo.
Well, the government had promised details about some kind of stimulus package by the end of October, and now we have it. Some 17 trillion yen, or $113 billion US, in this package, mostly targeting temporary tax relief in the income taxes and residential taxes of citizens, and also looking at subsidizing the rising cost of utilities and gasoline, as consumers here have hurt for about a year and a half now with the rising cost of living. We saw a very similar package at exactly this time last year, a much bigger package, in fact, of about $200 billion US that was also aimed at the rising cost of utilities, but also helping small and medium-sized businesses with their rising costs as well. And economists say that these stimulus packages are not the solution to Japan's economic woes. They are band-aids along the way. The main problem facing the economy is the consistently high value of import commodities as the yen stays weak. Japan's interest rates are very low. Other major economies like the United States have high interest rates by comparison. That divergence is putting downward pressure on the yen, upward pressure on the value of import goods, and consumers are seeing that here in their daily expenditure, particularly in their energy bills. But the monetary lever is somewhat closed. The Bank of Japan does not want to raise interest rates and wants to encourage spending. It does not want to send shockwaves through the market with any drastic change. And so that really leaves the government with these fiscal stimulus options as some kind of solution to take the bite out of the economy. Political scientists also have a raised eyebrow about this at the moment. They're saying that the Prime Minister does want to call a snap election sometime in the next 12 months, but his problem is that his polling is in the gutter, with some 32 or 33% cabinet approval ratings at the moment. Any snap election announcement could just bleed the ruling LDP, the ruling party, seats in the House of Representatives. And so packages like this are also, political scientists say, a tool for the Prime Minister to try and boost his popularity, the popularity of the government somewhat, before calling any kind of snap election. But the main focus really is on taking the bite out of the economy with this $113 billion stimulus package. Chris Gilbert in Tokyo, reporting for DD India.
Well, Wall Street's major index closed higher on Wednesday after the U.S. Federal Reserve kept interest rates unchanged. According to preliminary data, the S&P 500 gained 43.8 points to close at 4,237.6, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 210.2 points to settle at 13,061.4 points. However, the less hawkish stance of the Federal Reserve had left the door open for further hikes. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for sports updates. Moving first up with World Cup match in Wankhede. It's 12 years later, but the pains of 2023 with Sri Lanka continue, as Sri Lanka in a spot of bother, chasing 358 in their World Cup match at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. Indian players Virat, Shubman Gill and Shreyas Iyer all got good starts but failed to make or reach three figures. But in the end, Shubman Gill top scored with 92. Virat Kohli once again missing his 49th one-day 100, dismissed for 88, and also equaling Sachin's record of 49 centuries in one-day cricket, still somewhere short. Earlier, Sri Lankan skipper Kushal Mendis won the toss, elected to field first and put India into bat. In reply, Sri Lanka in a spot of bother. When reports at this point of time as we speak, Sri Lanka 2 runs on the board, 3 wickets down. It's Jasprit Bumrah who got the initial breakthrough for India. Mohammad Siraj in his opening over has picked 2 wickets. So Sri Lankans pecked back and in a spot of bother in this 358-run chase. Union Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas Hardeep Singh Puri felicitated the triumphant athletes who brought honour to India in the 4th Asian Para Games. The occasion provided a stage to celebrate the remarkable achievement of these athletes. Indian para-athletes brought home an unprecedented total of 111 medals from the Para-Asian Games in Hangzhou, China.
Union Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas Hardeep Singh Puri felicitated para-athletes who performed brilliantly at the Asian Para Games in China. This event served as a platform to applaud these athletes for their incredible success. Union Minister expressed the nation's pride in these athletes' achievements.
हमारा जो इकोसिस्टम है, इनको जो सहायता चाहिए ट्रेनिंग के लिए, बाकी ट्रेनिंग वेन्यूज़, स्टेडियम के लिए सबकी तरफ से सहायता मिल रही है और मैं इनको सबको शुभकामनाएं देना चाहता हूं। और मैंने जैसे कहा, देश भर में सब प्रधानमंत्री जी से लेके सब they are very proud of their achievements or we draw strength from their success.
The Indian para-athletes shared their sentiments on how such recognition and appreciation fuels their motivation to strive for even greater success in the future.
देश को 7 मेडल दे चुकी हूँ, 3 इंटरनेशनल खेल चुकी हूँ, 7 मेडल, देश को 7 मेडल दे चुकी हूँ, तो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। मैं सबको धन्यवाद कहना चाहती हूँ। सबसे पहले मैं धन्यवाद करना शाइन बोर्ड का, पीसीआई का, ओजीक्यू का, साई का, इन सब का सपोर्ट रहा है हमें पीछे, उनका मैं धन्यवाद कहना चाहती हूँ। और कल हम प्रधानमंत्री जी से मिले, उन्होंने अपना आशीर्वाद दिया, हमें बहुत अच्छा लगा। और मैं सबके लिए एक मैसेज देना चाहती हूँ कि किसी में कोई कमी नहीं होती, बस मेहनत की ज़रूरत होती है।
I also want to say my thanks to the government of India, our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi sir, because you know we all wait for his tweets whenever we win medals. So that is something which is special and that spreads positivity. And I think that is one of the reasons that we have come here and on the 5th position. I would also like to thank SAI, PCI, and each and every one, my coaches, my team, shooting team.
India's para-athletes made history at Asian Para Games in Hangzhou, securing an astounding 111 medals, including an impressive 29 gold. This remarkable victory demonstrates India's prowess on the international stage and the indomitable spirit of its para-athletes. Narayan Singh's report, DD India.
Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Anil Thomas. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.